So we have to be real careful with, like we've said before, outsiders coming in to tell our story, because they will always put inside of it this slave narrative. Okay? But this is how we can knock that down. Okay? The Black Seminoles are not just slaves who were incorporated into the tribe. No. The Muskogee Nation, the origins of the Muskogee Nation, which is where the Seminoles derived from, okay, is black. And we know this when we look into the language, the Muskogean language, okay, and let's just say Muskogean languages, plural, because we find Nigerian words, okay, Hebrew and Arabic words inside of the Seminole language. There are several dialects of Seminole language, okay? But in all of the dialects, we find words that are linked to Africa. Even in the Cherokee language, we find words that are linked to Africa. Let's take an example. In Afro-Seminole Creole, we have the word ono, okay? This word ono is directly derived from the Igbo language, and it means you, okay? Now, we use this in Afro-Seminole Creole and Sea Island Creole or Gullah Geechee Creole as you plural and also as you singular, okay? There's a word in the Muskogean language, okay, which is one of the languages of the Seminole, the Creek language, and that word is oji. That word means nut, just like the nuts that you would pick off of a tree. But we know that this word has its origins in the Igbo language, okay? Because we also have the word oji, okay, which refers to kola nut in the Igbo language. But we borrowed that in the Native American Muskogee language, and now it has been adopted here amongst the tribes. But it directly comes from the Igbo culture and language, Iwaoji, okay? So this is an amazing thing. We also have a word for green leafy vegetables, ofohishi. We also have a dish in Yoruba that's called eforiro, okay? With that word in the beginning, ofo, these words are related to one another as they both carry the same meaning, green and leafy vegetable, okay? So we have this and many more examples of language in Native American language, not just the Creole, because when we get into the Creole, we find even more African dialects. But when we're just dealing directly with the actual Native American dialect of Cherokee and Seminole, what do we find? We find African language. Just like in Cherokee, we have a word for grandfather, which is idoda, okay? Or I'm sorry, iduda, or idudu. Now in Yoruba language, idudu means black. And in Igbo language, idudu means to lead, okay? Or leadership. And it's even connected to that word ndu, the word for life, okay? As we understand that we, in our life, are led to act by spiritual inspiration. So as we dig deeper into our languages and dialects and tribes, because we are many and we are scattered to the four corners of the earth, we will notice similarities in our languages and dialects. And where our languages and dialects differ phonetically and in sound, what we will notice is that the same idea is being transmitted through different words from our ancestral heritage, okay? So this is a very important thing to understand. This is why we find the African dialects and bits and pieces of African words and sentence structure and syntax in our Native American dialects, which inevitably bled down into our English dialect or broken English dialects, okay? In the Gullah Geechee Creole, the Sea Island Creole, what we call it, in the Afro-Seminole Creole, patois, and all the different Creoles that are spoken by all the different tribes and groups in all of our respective places. But we understand that the ideas and the understandings of spirituality, the wisdoms of life, and understanding about the Creator, those ideas we find in our language are very, very similar to one another, almost with synonymous words across all of our cultures. Okay, so this is something to take note of when people begin to tell you, as a Black Native American, that you came from some sort of slave revival. This is not the case. Okay, we forget that there was also free Blacks that were a part of this ethnogenesis that took place between Native America and Africa. But one thing we understand is that we did become what? One people. It wasn't until modern times, when the tribe got usurped by those outside of it and corrupted by those inside of it, that we begin to change our standards, and we begin to change how we recognize the members of our tribe and our tribes plural. So these are things to consider when you're listening to the foolishness of people telling your story. And so I found this on the internet and decided to share it as an example of what I'm talking about. In any of the indigenous cultures of the world where we find melanated people, Black people, there's always the mention of slavery as the reason for our existence in whatever that location is. But what I'm saying is that this is a fallacy, okay? And it's nothing further from the truth.
The Black Seminoles, also known as Seminole Maroons, were descendants of African slaves who escaped from plantations in the southern United States and sought refuge among the Seminole Native American communities in Florida. This